everyone. I welcome you all to India's one of the biggest and powerful cohorts of the year, Techxelerate. My name is Aishwarya, and I would like to welcome and introduce you to Ms. Deepa Sayal. Deepa is the founder and president of IWILindia, a non-profit organization for women entrepreneurs, and Tech Supergirl, a platform to incubate tech-based startups. She herself is a serial entrepreneur running 4 successful startups of her own and digital transformation evangelist. She has been featured in the top 100 women entrepreneurs compendium in India, conferred by Ms. Nitin Gadkari, MSME industry. Here I welcome Ms. Deepa in the forum.
A very warm good afternoon to all the beautiful ladies. My name is Deepa Sayal, like Aishwarya said, and I'm the president for IWILindia. And I also hold and run a community which is called Tech Supergirl. I assure you that the experiences that we are going to create in India are going to be never before. We are trying to build a mentor network with already 200 plus mentors on board. We are happy to tell you that for the last 3 months, we must have met 450 plus women entrepreneurs in the sunrise industries like blockchain, IoT, edutech. Very proud to tell you that we have worked with CII, FICCI, Shell, and now this program, Techxelerate, we are working with AWS, Amazon.
Today I'm going to I'm just saying, I always say that I'm going to share the stories of incredible women who have never been to school, who have never have no means of transport, no running water, no electricity. And these are ordinary women who did extraordinary things in their lives. But today I'm also going to say that I'm going to share with you stories of those women who are in the villages but they are brave and bold. When I say that, again, I would like to emphasize that they are brave and bold, had never got an opportunity to go to high school, have been to the colleges or universities, and they don't have their own 4-wheelers or no transport and of that type of luxury. But whatever they have displayed during pandemic is also extraordinary. So again, I would say brave and bold, ordinary women did extraordinary things, and I'm going to share the lessons I have learned from them. Let me share with you a lady named Lakshmi, who actually at the time of pandemic, immediately when the lockdown was there, and she was given she got an order of providing the dal to the organization which were doing the relief work. This lady, Lakshmi, she is actually, she was selling the hand-pound dals in the village, which means that she would buy the pulses, make dal and sell it. Now, during pandemic, what happened is that she got so many orders that she decided that I will buy a machine. And she bought a dal mill. It is quite big in the size, 9 feet high, around 7 feet broad, and then it has all this electrification. You have a 3-phase electricity, and she had made the arrangement of everything. She had a 3-phase electricity connection in her house and was ready to install the dal mill. She paid the amount because she had saved for that. And when she installed the machine, the machine vendor, she called and said that, why don't you start the machine and show me? You know what machine vendor told her? That I don't want to waste time with you. Call your husband, I will show him, and then I will make the dal machine operational. Now she said, I am doing the business, not my husband, and I am selling the dal. But still the vendor kept on saying that. And then she said that I will call my husband, but you have to explain. And then the vendor explained her, and her machine is on. I am sharing this story that when women starts the business, when women work on technology, when women do anything which is called the men's world, the society, family, government, policymakers, everybody will say that you won't be able to do it. And this story, which I have narrated, is a last year 2020 story. And today, I'm so proud to share with you that every month, every day, Lakshmi is producing dal of more than 2000 kg and selling it. 25 years before when I started bank, I would like to narrate a story of how I started bank. When a lady named Kantabai came to me, she is a street vendor and she wanted to open a saving account. She came to me and she said, I want to open a saving account. My obvious response was, go to the bank. And she said, and we both of us, we went to the bank. Bank said we cannot open her account. You know why? Because her savings are too low. She wants to save 10 rupees a day. She's not an affordable client for us. I felt Kantabai, who is doing business on the street, staying with her family on the street. She's not asking any money from the government, no grant, no subsidy. What she's requesting is to save her hard-earned money. And that banks are denying. Why? Because she's not an affordable client. Then I felt, why not start a bank for women like Kantabai? And we decided to apply for the banking license. Now we applied for the banking license at the Reserve Bank of India in Mumbai. Again, here, license was denied. Why? Because promoting members are non-literate, they cannot read and write, and we cannot issue the license. That was the response from Reserve Bank of India. I went to our women and I said we couldn't get the license because our women are non-literate. You know what our women said? We cannot read and write, but we will learn to read and write from today. And our literacy classes started. When I'm sharing with you, I'm saying that 25 years back, these women used to work on the field, but in the evening, they would come for the literacy classes to learn to read and write. And why? Because they wanted to set up the bank. Brave and bold. And then we applied again. But at that time, I didn't go alone. Our women were accompanied, 15 women accompanied me to Reserve Bank of India. I wasn't sure what they are going to say, but I could see their confidence. And they said, you know what they told Reserve Bank officer? That you denied the license because we cannot read and write. But they said, we cannot read and write, but we can count. And they challenged the officer, asking him that ask us to calculate the interest of any principal amount. If we fail, don't issue the license, but tell your officers to do it without calculator and see who can calculate faster. Needless to say that we got the license. But the lessons I learned was that we cannot read and write, but we can count. And another second lesson, when these women were setting up the bank, everybody in the village were teasing them. They were telling them कि आपको तो कचरा निकालना ठीक से नहीं आता है, आप बैंक की क्या बात करते हो, कचरा बैंक शुरू करोगे क्या? And when we shifted in our new building in 2019, and our building is like one of the best building in the area, women said that from the stage, they said that we would like to tell people, those who had told us that we are starting a Kachra bank, to see that what our bank is today. I'm so proud to share with all of you and Deepa that today we have landed more than 400 crore to these women. And you know what?
Wow is the word, ma'am. 400 crores starting from a rural bank. That's what a story. It's an amazing story, ma'am. Sorry I've interrupted you, but amazing.
Yeah. So with this, I'm like, these are the lessons I have learned, and I want to share with everybody who is there here. That, you know, when women start, the denial comes first. And a lot of people will raise the questions. With our women also, the same questions were raised. But I'm so proud to today share with you that this is not only the first rural women's bank, but the first digital rural women's bank. Today, more than 15,000 women in just one of our branch are doing the mobile banking. And these women who are doing mobile banking, they don't know how to read and write. And when we were designing the PIN number, our women said that, you know, you can have a PIN number, but we want something more than PIN. And so they said, how about having the thumb? So we said, but you know, we will teach you financial literacy. and then you will remember the PIN number. They said, no, that is not the case. We want to have a money in our control. And so we adopted the biometric. We did the pilot. And when it was successful, you know what our women said? That everybody can steal our PIN number, our family members, but nobody can steal our angutha. We decide, we go to the village, we started the bank with no outside fund, no equity, no debt. It was all women members capital, members saving, member credit. And they said, go and tell the CEOs of World Economic Forum that for us, our courage is the capital.
What a wonderful journey, ma'am. We are in all of us, we are tongue tied because, as you said, you're 7 hours from Mumbai, you have lent 400 crores, you were at the World Economic Forum next to the IMF chief. What a journey. When people say on panel discussions, grassroots, I think you are the paradigm. You are the real example of being a grassroots woman who has practiced and who's done so much work in this direction. But I surely want to ask you, what has motivated you to do such an excellent journey? So what has kept you going, Chetna ma'am? कभी ऐसा भी आया, कभी आपको give up करने का दिल किया या कोई failures? How have you taken that in your spirit? What has kept you going for so long?
So Deepa, let me share with you that so many challenges come, right? So many challenges. These challenges when you face, I do remember, I would give you just very briefly, narrating 2 episodes. One is that we had a very bad drought. It was such a bad drought in our area that anyway, bank was not doing the transactions also because people didn't have money. And a lady named Kirabai came to me and she said, I want to mortgage gold and buy fodder. I had a question that you are mortgaging your precious gold and buying fodder. Kirabai said that, you know what, there is such a bad drought. And so fodder, you get 100 bundle of that green fodder, right? In a small bundle. She said that 1 gram of gold is equal to 100 bundle of fodder. So fodder is that expensive. And she said that why is it expensive? Because we have created that problem. But anyway, I'm mortgaging gold. And then she told me that if you are not going to work on water, if you are not going to think of these animals, how they will survive, we will sell our animals and if we will leave this area in search of water, with whom are you going to do banking? That made me think that it is so important that our farmers survive. And also it made me think that our generation has been fed by farmers. We need to give, it is a debt on us. When they are raising the animals, we are getting milk. Otherwise, how our kids are going to get the milk? Anyway, I'm not talking about just food, but what I'm trying to say is that food grains and everything for which we are today surviving, farmers have so much of done for our generations. Is it not our responsibility to do something? Can I say that this is not my job, I have to run the bank? I cannot. And when Kirabai said this, we started a cattle camp, we worked on water. But Kirabai is good singer and she regularly sings on our radio. She featured her own program on our radio. And then a chapter was written on her in radio jockeys, where there was 7 stories of radio jockeys all over India. One of the radio jockey was Amin Sayani, and another radio jockey was our Kirabai. And Bollywood, Anand Bakshi's son wrote a book on her. And he has asked her a question that, how did you learn to sing? Do you know what Kirabai said? Kirabai said that she got married at the age of 13. She got pregnant at the age of 14. School ka to sawal hi nahi aata hai. And when she was pregnant, there was not enough food in the house to eat. And so to forget hunger, she started singing. And now last week, she was given an award by Z as a best radio jockey. So these are the women actually in such a situation when they rise above you. They rise and not only just rise, but they become a role model of the society. And these women motivates me, Deepa. And every next day when I get up, there are so many challenges. We had gone through demonetization. Second wave was such a challenging. All of us had such a hard time. But our oxygen bank was managed by another woman, Vanita Pise. She has not even finished high school, but she knew how to deal with the high nasal flow oxygen in the villages, and she made sure got the ambulance. I mean, we have ambulance and hospital also, but I'm just saying that in that situation, without getting scared of getting COVID or affected and all that, people are ready to work, because the whole thing is that we believe in coexistence. If you don't survive, I won't be able to survive. So your survival is my need. That I have learned from these community leaders, Deepa.
Very, very nice, ma'am. I don't know what to say. I've met many women during my journey. I have been talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, very seasoned entrepreneurs, but yours is a story which is set apart in the rural area and so brilliantly carved. And I'm proud to call you an Indian woman. I must tell you that. That is the spirit of this particular moment. I'm so deeply, what is it, right, overwhelmed as I listen to it. Where I really appreciate the time that you spend. मैम आप हमारे साथ बने रहिए. We'll be happy. हमारे रूम में एक और स्पीकर है. She's सीमा चतुर्वेदी AWE फंड से हैं और वो फंडिंग करती हैं women led businesses के लिए. She's connected with the US Department of State. So I would also like to welcome Seema, and since she's investing in women-led businesses. Seema, are you there in the hall while Chetna ma'am is alongside us? Ma'am, we'd love you to join the session if you'll want to be alongside. And Seema, can I see you, please?
Chetna, namaste. It is always such a pleasure to listen to Chetna, and if that doesn't inspire somebody, I don't know what will. So Chetna, it is such a pleasure and an honor actually to listen to your story, your experiences.
Absolutely. So I'll formally welcome you, Seema. Seema has over 20 years experience in capital markets and financial management. And apart from that, she's basically running a fund for women-owned, led, and influences businesses. For all of those who are looking to get to know more about how women can get, there's a gender lens perspective also, which is very important when it's funding. So welcome, and welcome to you, Seema, and we'd love to hear insights about how you plan to invest in India and how's your focus and how's been this journey for you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I'll just focus on the equity part, because that's what I do for a living, is investing in equity of businesses. Now, she said something which was very important, that, and I'll just restate it another way. हर business को equity की जरूरत नहीं होती है. And I think उनका कहना कि आप अपने business को आप bank loan से भी बढ़ा सकते हो, आगे बढ़ा सकते हो, it's very, very appropriate. But some businesses do need equity to scale. And so I'm going to touch upon that. If I'm allowed to share, I actually have a few slides. So my discussion will be more about the actual nuts and bolts, building upon what Chetna just spoke of. So in terms of options, again, building on what Chetna said, there are several. So you don't have to, in fact, the grants that she talked about is also something we can put on our slide. But fundamentally, from an investor standpoint, it's a function of risk versus return. So think about, अगर आप ज़्यादा risk ले रहे हैं, तो ज़्यादा return की expectation होती है, which is natural, right? It's just human tendency. If you are taking less risk, then your returns can be, because you are sure that the money will come back. So in terms of pecking order, debt debt is something that is usually lower return for the investor, but it's also technically lower risk. So if you see the balance sheet of any company and the way debt is structured, you are, as a shareholder, expected to return first the debt to the bank. Usually, as Chetna talked about, collateral ki zarurat hoti hai. You are supposed to have, and those are called secured debts, but they're also unsecured debt. The rule of thumb is, agar aap bank interest se zyada paise bana rahe hain, then there is really, and you are okay in the rate of growth. Agar aapka business saal बढ़ रहा है and आपको hyper growth का situation नहीं है, debt is a viable option. However, some businesses actually don't have collateral. Some businesses are extremely hyper growth. In that situation, you now need to start looking at other options of funding. So for example, sub-debt is unsecured debt, which rides below. It has no collateral. It is unsecured, and what's also called mezzanine debt or sub-debt, where the return expectations are more like 20%. As you see, as you go up the axis, a venture capitalist, or actually even the angels, they come in at a very early stage where you might not even have a business plan. It's mostly your idea. In some cases, they want a business plan. In that scenario, they're really betting on you as a person. And in fact, even around the VC stage, they're betting on you as a person. So at that level, you want to have their expectation, rightfully so, is I came in when you needed me most. So give me what my fair share. Now let's switch to equity. So this is what I spend my day job on. This is where I spend my now. Here's what we are trying to do. As orphans, we are achieving women equity funds. We are wanting to come in at to businesses that promote gender equity. And why is there so much focus for us? We are very obsessed with wanting to get women equal opportunity. So think of it in this little thing. The opportunities on the top shelf. I'm not chasing equality, because equality mein to aapko same level ka stool milega, right? I'm chasing equity, where you get a higher level stool. So that is where the difference comes in, and that is where we need to provide an extra incentive and extra emphasis on making equity available, because some of you may know this, less than 2% of venture funding goes to women businesses. The first thing we look for is your team. And the team is very, 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 very critical, because, like I said, equity has no recourse. So we can't, having said that, we do negotiate terms to give us that protection. But since we are coming after debt and after sub debt, agar company पे ताला लगने वाला होता है, equity वाले के पास बहुत कम recourse रह जाता है. So you will appreciate that we will therefore want to make sure that you have a team that will stick together in tough times also, but also very importantly, participate in complementing each other. So look around yourself, make sure you have the team that gets the job done.
आज चेतना मैम ने डिटेल में बताया कि हमारे कौन कौन से स्कीम्स हैं. सीमा जी ने भी टचअप किया कि कौन कौन से स्कीम्स हैं जो हम अवेल कर सकते हैं, वुमेन एंटरप्रेन्योर स्कीम्स. We can go to SIDBI. There's so much. We talked about Ankur Capital, and there's so much and so forth that she has mentioned. And I'm really hoping that you guys are taking notes. So, Sameer, we welcome you today. What a fantastic afternoon. And we are happy to have you today in our virtual room. And here is Sabir Nigam. Guys, I've introduced you to him. He is one powerful man, in the fintech industry. This year revenue 690 crores, and with an 80% jump year on year. Sameer has had a brilliant stint. We spoke to him the other day. और बहुत ही interesting इंसान भी है, apart from being an entrepreneur. So Sameer, we'd love to hear your story. आपके बारे में we want to hear your story. We want to know more about this journey. कैसी थी आपकी journey? कैसे raise किया आपने funds? So over to you.
Thanks, Deepa. Pleasure to be here. I think it's fantastic that you have a forum like this. I'm personally very, very excited to actually see a forum that's focusing on women getting more into entrepreneurship, building businesses. I grew up in a very normal middle-class family in Delhi. My father was in the Indian Navy. He was an IIT graduate, and he was the sort of quintessential follow a playbook, study really hard, work really hard kind of guy. But from my father, I learned how to think scaled. When he graduated, he joined the Indian Navy. I come from a family of government servants, bureaucrats. Most of my family is either in the defense forces, IPS, IAS. I was the first one on my dad's side to actually get into venture. So I was by definition the black sheep. I was in my family, I used to be called one of the bloody civilians, if you've got any context of how defense families think. But my journey into entrepreneurship actually started because of my mother. So my mom finished a PhD in the early or late 70s. And she decided to actually get into the software industry way back in, I'd say 78, 79, when computers were mainframes. My mother started in the TCS founding team, in the first 50 people there. And then she was moving around as my dad was in the Indian Navy, got transferred around. But she started her first company in 1984. She started a software company based out of Noida. We were based in Noida. And I don't think she was the first in her family that I'm sure of. I think she was probably the first in the entire district to have actually dared to start a venture with a family, young family. We were young kids in the software space. And reason I think that was very, very inspirational for me was, as a kid, to be very honest, I used to keep hearing kids saying, Meri maa ne aaj samose banaye, Meri maa ne aaj laddu banaye. We used to keep saying, mom's not home, dad's home, and every single day sort of wondering where our mom was. I had an older sister. I think she understood what my mom was juggling. And she broke out first, actually. So she went to IIT. She became a mathematician. She decided to pursue her dreams very independently. And my parents were very, very supportive of whatever career choices we made. And my sister's now across the other end of the world. She's in Canada. She's a very, very successful research woman in the space of applied maths. That's her chosen profession. My mother continued to try venture after venture. She faced all the adversities I still unfortunately oftentimes hear women talking about, whether it's just trying to strike a balance between work life and home life that us men are not expected to even today societally, especially in India, or not being able to find financing, or just sexism in the workplace. I remember those because she used to come home extremely frustrated. But from that woman, very, very early on, I learned independence. I learned resilience in a way that I don't think most men can actually deal with. Again, I'm talking about the early 80s, guys. So she was the one who told me, if you want something bad, you gotta want it so bad that you're willing to put yourself through fire for it. And I think that in many ways has shaped who I am in so many different ways in my startup life, but even personally. Um, my mother's first venture failed. Her second venture failed. My father was in the Navy, as I mentioned. He was doing really good work, but the Navy back in those days also didn't pay very well. So financially, it was hard. But her third venture clicked. And it took almost 14, 15 years for her to start making cash flow. And it took even longer for there to be stability. And again, besides just the tenacity and the perseverance, I think the other thing that I learned, which I would never have learned back then, is how passionate you need to be when you're starting out. First venture is the hardest. As a serial entrepreneur, I can tell you the second one is way, way easier. The third is just you know the playbook. It's rinse and repeat. But the first is really hard. And so for a lot of people who are starting out in their careers, trying to build ventures, I think what you won't hear of enough, especially nowadays because there are so many VCs, there is a lot of funding. Everyone writes a few PowerPoints and it's easy to get early stage funding, is that it can be lonely. So my first piece of advice to most people I find who are looking to start up today is find yourself a really good co-founder or two. I got very, very lucky. I have a partner in crime in Rahul Chari and another in Burzin. It really, really, really helps in your entrepreneurial journey to have somebody there to lift you up when you have difficult days and vice versa. The second is, if you have a good team and you can keep each other honest, you'll also be able to make the right pivots and adjustments in your business. And that's something that we learned the hard way in our first venture, but it's very, very useful to have somebody you really trust implicitly. I think success stories people celebrate a lot. I genuinely believe I've learned most things in life through my own mistakes, and I think all of us do, right? And really honest and most successful entrepreneurs will tell you that they've learned a lot more through failures and just life lessons. So I'll talk about 4 values that I hold sacrosanct in my life. Like those are non-negotiable no matter what, and how I learn them. What we told everyone at PhonePe, and we tell everyone who joins even today, is our mission may change. As far as vision is concerned, we will not spoil somebody's profit pools just because we can raise more capital, because we can mess with them. We will only create money by increasing the size of the pie and adding genuine value to society. Now it sounds kind of silly at times when you're starting out to have like lofty ideals and people foo-foo it a lot and say, what the hell are you talking about? It's day zero. But I would highly recommend everyone who's starting out, if you can spend a day or two with your founding team or just by yourself, write down what you actually hold sacred, because I think these concepts really matter when you start interviewing, especially early stage. It's desperate times. People don't attract good talent in their first venture or in the first year of a new venture, even if you're a serial entrepreneur, unless you're already established. I mean, that's the chicken and egg problem. And the rookie mistakes we made the first time, and I see a lot of entrepreneurs making, is that you hire the strongest resume instead of the strongest teammate. Whatever function you're hiring for, you have to hire the best accountant, the best lawyer, the best marketer, the best app designer. But if it comes at a cost of me above company, just say no. That again, I mean, that discipline has to start very early. And again, like school activities would have taught everyone. I think the last one of the lot, which and I'll stop there because I'm blabbering now. The last value that I consider absolutely sacred is to have a continuous learning curve. As long as you are learning as the founder of a company every day on the job, you will continue having fun. The day you stop having fun, you'll stop inspiring others around you to reach newer levels or heights. You'll stop inspiring other people to take risk. You'll stop inspiring other people to try and do things that haven't been done before. Have fun at what you do. It's tiring enough building a business. It's very, very exhausting starting on day zero, but have fun at what you're trying to build. You have to be seriously passionate about the space. If you're not, don't do it, right? A lot of people ask us, for example, why is PhonePe not getting into crypto? I'm not sold on it. I'm just not convinced net societally it's a good thing yet. My views might change, but until then, no matter how many millions or billions of dollars cryptos are getting valued at, PhonePe will not enter. Pick a few areas that you're good at, more importantly, passionate at, and then you can be the very best in that. Then be fiercely competitive.
Thank you, Samir. We have picked up our lessons. The first one being that build a great team. The second one that I loved while I logged in back was have fun. Now that is something that I also faced challenges with, that, while you juggle with multiple things you have, how do you compartmentalize fun? That is a question. How do you have fun when how do you sustain pressure, and how do you make it easy for everyone? What is your philosophy to have fun and make it happy for everyone while juggling with the pressures?
3 kinds of reasons to enter a business. Yeah. Either you've identified a space no one has. And again, I'll just use the crypto example as the hot new buzzword. A lot of people will get in there because they know that if crypto does take off and get legalized, everyone who's gotten there early, the first 10 ventures will all make money. Some will sell to the others, but everybody will make money. If money is your starting point, having fun is difficult. It may be a heady ride, but it's not necessarily something you'll be passionate about. And that's okay. Depending on stage of life, if money is what's driving you, if you're trying to break out of poverty, or you want to change your lifestyle, or you're 22 and you think you'll fly a private jet someday, go for it. The second kind of venture is where you really, really like a sector. Let's say you actually meet somebody who's in finance and they want to actually start a hedge fund, or they want to start a venture capital fund, or whatever it is. They just like finance as an industry or banking as an industry. Then you'll have fun as long as you're learning more about that industry and its dynamics. I call this a sectoral venture. And oftentimes, a lot of times, where people do their first job, that industry is where they learn a bunch about. And that's where people find the confidence saying, if this person can do it, I can do it too. So a lot of people start their venture in that middle bucket of working in the same sector where they started out. The third is where you've identified a problem or you identify something you really enjoy. And then you say, I'm going to do the best I can here. Nika is a very good example recently. If you listen to Falguni, right? I mean, getting in and transforming the entire beauty segment in her 50s is no mean feat. Doing it with the passion and focus that team's done blows my mind. I think that's a great example. Ola is another very good example. What Bhavesh is doing with Ola Electric, you can't do without passion, because in earnest, Ola Cabs already is a multi-billion-dollar business. If he was doing it for money, he could start playing golf today. And if he was doing it because he wanted to understand the sector, well, he's already leading the market. So what makes somebody like Bhavesh say, I'm going to get into manufacturing? Manufacturing is hard. It's not easy. That's coming from passion. He wants to actually get electric vehicles to India at scale. When we started out our first venture, I love music. I was in the US. I was working in comparison shopping. I found it really boring. I like the coding part of it. I was an engineer. I love coding, but I love music. So we started a music venture. We had to pivot. As I said, the business didn't do well. We started to build a music platform like Ghana and others. We didn't have money. We were green. We were silly. We didn't know the market. But we continued building the technology part of it. Everyone was using us in the industry, Savan, Ghana, all these platforms people use today. But that's okay. We didn't make money. We had a ton of fun working on digitizing music. I worked with All India Radio, I remember. We digitized songs from Radio Ceylon in 1907. I mean, that catalog, I will never, ever let go of in my life, right? So if the space is fun for you, you'll never get bored, no matter how large or small it gets. I love transforming or working in financial inclusion, because even today, we have maybe 50, 60,000 people working in rural India, putting QR codes in every nook and corner of the country. And every day, even today, when you get testimonials of very, very small businesses, mostly individual proprietors, saying, I now accept digital payments with pride, right? There's sabzi walas and there's golgappa walas and all these people. The smile that brings to you is so precious. You don't ask yourself, is the MDR or not? Am I making money or not?
Okay, now that's very, very interesting. And Sameer, we have questions and by buckets. So Sakshi Rastogi from helium.io. She says, today you have the highest. Sakshi, if you want to speak up, I'll be happy to raise your hand. But she says, you have the highest market share in the UPI transactions. Congrats. You rose from the second in 2019, 20% to the unbeatable highest 45%. How did you win over competition? And what tips would you give some of us who are at an early stage to overcome competition?
So UPI is an interesting space. When we entered, everyone said, you're nuts. And fairly so, by the way, because UPI is about bank-to-bank transfer. So first, you knew every bank is going to make an app, and banks are much, much bigger than any day zero startup. Second, Paytm, MobiKwik, Freecharge were well-established brands. I saw Partner on the slate. I mean, these were well-established brands with a bunch of money. And then because it's an interoperable network, we knew that Google and WhatsApp and Facebook and all these guys are going to enter, right? All the global biggies. The cool part, when you know that you will have very fierce competition, maybe 100 competitors, is that you also know, I call it Murphy's Law. If you're within sight, if the enemy is within sight, so are you, right? So everyone's looking at each other. Here's the dirty little secret for us. Every year, if you go back and look at the UPI records, we were in the top 3 since we launched. We were just there early. We moved from first position to second or third and then bounced right back every year for the last 5 years. Because every year when a big name launch happens, today WhatsApp is launching. 2 years ago, Google had launched. Year before that, Paytm had launched. Every time somebody big launches, the media gets super excited and all the attention shifts there. That's the best time to strike, guys. When there's no attention on you as a startup, you're a challenger, you should actually play to the galleries on that one and just say, I'm small. When people look at you, when you're the incumbent is when you have trouble. Defending a large share is much, much harder than actually going after it. So enjoy the fact that you're small because you can move at a speed at which others can't. You just can't. As far as taking market share, I'll give you a simple example of things we did that others couldn't do because they were much larger. When Jio launched in India, Paytm was maybe 100 times larger than us on recharge, mobile recharge, a very, very simple use case. We talked to Jio and said, we'll give 75 rupees off to every customer who does a 300 rupee recharge. Now that sounds crazy, but here's the cool part. We went on every Indian newspaper, spent a lot of money, and we said 75 rupees on 300. We got 2 million users in the first, I think, week or two, because everyone wanted to get a Jio line at that time. The competition couldn't afford to do it because if, let's say, a Paytm or a MobiKwik, who were much larger than us at the time, if they had done the same thing, if they tried that same idea at that time, 100 times more is what they would have spent. So if we spent 1 crore, they would have to spend 100 crores on cashback because the customers were already there, right? So you just basically have to find ideas that others can't replicate because they're already at scale.
We got that. We got that loud and clear, Samir.
Rafina's question was around initially teammates are very aggressive to work on a mission, but they sometimes lose the spark. How do you keep them alive and connected? Well, Rafina, I think a couple of things. If you've lost interest in the space, either the interest wasn't true to begin with, and you should talk about pivoting, or you've gotten large in the industry and you need something new and fresh to do. If it's the latter, you're already successful. That's the good news. But there's a saying in English, right? It's darkest before dawn.
Yeah.
Right? That is very true. Even at PhonePe, by the way, let me assure you, it wasn't a cakewalk at all. I mean, it took us 3 years, 4 years of even our board members asking us every time, how will you beat Google? They're entering the market. How will you beat Amazon? They're entering the market. I mean, when you're ahead, people are worried you'll go behind. When you're not there, when you're starting out, people will worry, how will you ever get to the top? There's 50,000 naysayers. You and your co-founders are your early team. That's why I think passion is so important. You got to find something that you're interested in. If you're interested, you won't lose spark. If you're going after money, it is riskier. If you're in a venture just to make money and the money doesn't come easy, that becomes really hard. If you're passionate, you'll persevere through it longer, at least from what I've seen of a lot of entrepreneurs and the ones that have succeeded. Good teams are aligned on why they're in the venture. Worst combination I've found, one's in it for the money, the other's in it for the passion. That becomes a problem. Typically what you want to do in there is buy your partner out if they're in it for the money, once they're made enough, and then run with the passion.
All right. That answers, I guess. Our next question is, should I read it?
Sure.
Yeah. So Sandhya says, fintech still seems to be in the top segments. Do you think still there are many more disruptive ideas that can come in this space?
100%. See, first of all, fintech is a very, very, very broad term, right? Financial services, you're talking about insurance, which itself has like 100 different categories. Then you're talking about wealth, which is everything from stock to gold to commodities, lending. Lending in India is so poorly penetrated right now. If you want to lend to kirana shops versus large businesses to consumers, you see these buy now, pay later business models, you're seeing card penetration. Even within fintech, there's 100 businesses that have not happened yet. I think brands in India, seeing this with Mensa and a few other companies, I think brands in India are getting developed. This is one area where I say this with all respect to the men in the industry. I think women should be dominating in terms of building brands, because I think inherently you guys have a superpower that us guys don't, which is there's a natural sort of understanding of aesthetics and stuff, right? So I think the aspirational categories in India are very, very nascent. You can't name a brand that you can say is genuinely Indian that is in the top 3 in most categories in India. So I think there's tons of businesses there. I think there's going to be an incredible amount of revolution in health tech. If you're looking for a very large, like $100 billion idea, Sandhya, I think health tech is going to be the next fintech. I think retail is kind of done. There's already a few or bunch of large players. There'll always be a new Meesho and a Bulbul and whatnot, but health tech is just so wide open for a billion Indians. So health tech is, look at the health stack that is coming up. Look at health tech. I think that's the big one. I think education, everyone's talking about EdTech, K-12. Again, another very, very important area in India, more than K-12 in my mind, is vocational training. If you can figure out how to take technology to people who are unemployed, India has about 150 million people who are now in the workforce and don't have a job. It's a ticking time bomb societally. Figure out how to help people find employment. I think those two. Manufacturing is evergreen. People like Ola Electric are creating 10, 20, 30, 40,000 jobs at a time. Manufacturing will always find appeal with the government at a policy level. You'll get SOPs. I think those are the big three.
Wonderful. So thank you, Samir. This has been such an interesting session, and especially when you focus on diversity, we've had really nice learning curve on building teams and how to manage, about funding, about market, about coming from your childhood, where your mother's your inspiration. We loved it, every bit of it. We would request you to continue your patronage with IWILindia and Tech Supergirl, and all of women are very happy listening to you, and we really hope that you will be, you'll come and speak in future sessions also, sparing some time.
Thank you for having me here, Deepa.
Amir, lovely talking to you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. And thank you once again for sharing with that. Thanks a lot.
Bye.